Welcome to Friday night's video. I certainly hope you enjoyed the last video on rhythm. We had gotten to a point, I think, in the series that we had addressed on guitar lesson 27 composing and the basic concept, and I was just trying to get you started with that so you could basically see it, as I'm trying to do most of the series, so you could get a grasp on what that concept is and branch out as much as you needed to. After that, we really went into guitar lesson 28. It was about time to dial in your sound and really start messing with that. And when we got done with that, there was two videos after that. We really addressed passing tones and passing chords, and we addressed rhythm guitar so that the basic fundamental concepts, that they're huge stumbling blocks for people who are advancing. So the issue is, at this point, we are at a point in the series that we've addressed. If we go back in the series, there's like, I don't know, 30 videos or something like that. I mean, we started out with the very basic building blocks of music theory and addressed them. Then we started addressing things that were basic concepts that were happening in music theory that were going to be very helpful in you moving forward. Some tools, things like that. We got up to the point to where we started looking at advanced concepts and what that meant. And then we started looking at things like, realizing feelings and emotions, as building blocks and fundamental things to work from. And, composing, and actually addressed, looking at your setup to really fine tune it for as you progress. And then we went back and we really started looking at, we addressed passing tones and we addressed passing chords, and then we addressed rhythm in the most fundamental way, because that all is going to develop. So at this point, at this lesson, I'm going to probably make some more videos addressing some very specific things that are happening, but we really need to address, probably at this point, if you've watched this whole video series, that you should have a pretty good understanding of most things happening that you're going to be dealing with that are going to help you move forward as a guitarist and a musician, and very, as you elaborate on those and explore those, that you're going to open up all kinds of doors that are going to help you move forward in the direction that you want to. So at this point, we really need to take a step back and deal with something that is, more times than not, the biggest stumbling block for most guitarists and musicians, is that we've addressed most of these issues. So you know where you need to focus on. You know what you need to focus on. And why aren't you? So what is happening there? This is an issue that I see as probably the biggest stumbling block for most guitarists and musicians, is that introspect, to really sit down and take the time as part of your practice and really think about where you're at as a guitarist. What do you really need to work on? Where are you weak at that you need to be stronger for what you want to do at this point? If you're, instead of searching around for somebody else trying to tell you what to, at this point in my series, you should really be able to find, you should be able to pick where that's at. You should be able to sit down and really meditate and contemplate about where you're at and what you need to work on. And if you've watched all the videos that in this series, that you should very easily be able to target what you need to work on, what you need to explore, what areas you need to really spend some time at, and how you should approach those areas, and to better yourself as a guitarist and musician. Because at this point, it's here. This is what you need to focus on, in my opinion, as a guitarist and a musician. Because at this point in the series, we've addressed most of the things you're going to run into and branched out and showed direction to what you need to go focus on, to where the problem is probably here. If you're having a problem, you really need to sit down and go, okay, where am I at as a guitarist? What do I really want to do? What do I need to focus on? What areas am I feeling weak at? What areas do I need to strengthen? You know, and you are going to find those answers here. You may stumble upon them asking other people or reading or investigating and exploring, but more than likely it's going to be in here. You really are going to have to sit down and go, you know, what's going on in here? What this is the biggest stumbling block now, you know, my head, you know, my the way that I see shit, you know, the way that I'm trying to understand and analyze my own crap and what I'm doing is the biggest hurdle. You're, you know, at this point that hurdle is always in your way. Every time you pick up the guitar, you got to get over this hurdle. Because your own limitations, your own, lack of motivation, you know, your lack of, you know, getting yourself motivated, seeing the motivation, how you go through a motivation process, how you get things going. Those are internal stumbling blocks that you're going to have to work through. So you basically really need to work on your state of mind, work on your states of mind, how you work through those, your analysis, you know, algorithms in your own mind, fine tuning them, how you listen to music, how you pick it apart, how you analyze it, how you deconstruct it, how you construct it, you know, how well you do those things, and an honest evaluation, you know, of how this works. How, you know, I've got this information, now how I need to work on this. You know, so that I fine-tune my knowledge and my wisdom. You not only fine-tune my knowledge and my wisdom, but fine-tune my logic, fine-tune my intellect, fine-tune, you know, my passions and compassions, you know, that I direct my feelings and, you know, and my emotions, you know, and how well I direct them, how well, how do I, you know, the process, the mental process, and the whole thing of you being a guitarist and a musician, and each thing that you do as being a guitarist and musician, and how, you know, how good your mental process is in working in there. Does that make sense? And that can be very strange because you get like, you know, you have your mind and you have this, you know, up on the top shelf, you've got this knowledge and wisdom. And then it branches off to where you have your logic and your intellect in your mind, that how well it works in working with that knowledge and wisdom. And off to the other side, you've got like your feelings, compassions and passions, and, you know, other feelings and things like that that aren't just logic and intellect, then using them in conjunction and together, coming down to thing like, you know, how I look at like my soul that takes all this information and forms rational, you know, deductions and conclusions, and, you know, organizes things well, and it can visualize things well, and patterns and processes and things like that I'm doing, to where the mental process is working well. So that is the next thing you should focus on. It's your mental process. The things that are part of your mental process, how well you use them, how good your processes are, and how adept you are at utilizing them with the wisdom and knowledge that you have, so that you can really target what wisdom and knowledge you need to elaborate on, how well you use it, how well you incorporate it into different types of algorithms that you do, or, you know, organizational patterns, or, you know, how you construct things, how well you construct things, how, you know, how intellectual you are in your constructions, in your evaluations, your deductions and conclusions, and your compilations. That, you know, that can be very complicated, but it's a very real thing. And it's very intellectual, but it's a fundamental thing. So looking at that in a very fundamental way, and then elaborating on it and branching out and seeing how elaborate that can get, just the mental processes, the things that are happening. What are you doing with your wisdom and knowledge? How well are you, how good are you at using them? How do you use them? What are your processes? I mean, you can go on and on and on. And you know, I don't address this to this point because at this point your brain's been real busy trying to understand what the hell I've been trying to tell you, you know, and you really to try to do that, you know, as a lot of people have been in a lot of different points in what we're talking about right now in their life. And this can be applied to all areas of your life anyway. And some people can really understand that. Some people don't evaluate that as much. But the more you do, the better you are going to get at accumulating wisdom and knowledge, and the better you are going to be at implementing wisdom and knowledge, and the better you're going to be at augmenting and developing wisdom and knowledge. And does that make sense? And that's a very simple concept to get in your head, to really analyze that in your own self, and you're introspecting yourself, and you know how well do you function, you know, and you know, how do you function, you know, I mean, you just get up and start doing stuff, but you don't really think about it. And it can be the same way with your guitar playing, your learning, your implementations, your constructing, your building, your analyses, and all these things. How well do you function, and how do you function? And to really look at that, because as you start to really look at that it can really change how you go about every aspect in your, you know, that, how do I say this? Every aspect of your integration into the musical experience and the musical arena. Does that make sense? So that can be a huge next thing for you to look at, because a lot of guitarists at this point, musicians, that is the biggest stumbling block. Because they'll say this, that, the other thing, but it really boils down to this topic that we're talking now, that they're stumbling all over their own damn selves. It doesn't have anything to do that this wisdom and knowledge hasn't been presented to them. It doesn't have anything to do that the wisdom and knowledge wasn't presented to them in a way that they couldn't understand. They're their own damn stumbling block. They are stumbling all over their own damn selves, trying to get something done and trying to work through things that they're not taking the time to work on themselves. Work on you. Work on the things that I've been talking about in this video, and applying that to yourself and analyzing yourself and getting through the whole problem of you being your biggest stumbling block. Because at this point, probably you are the problem as you work through these things. You're going to run into things where you're going to be trying to find other wisdoms and pieces of knowledge, or study habits, or practicing routines, and all kinds of different things. But it more than likely is going to boil down to you, because you are going to analyze yourself, how well you function, and what's the best way to approach these things, the way you see things. And that doesn't mean that you may or may not become, with all due respect, that you're an idiot or you're Albert Einstein, you know, or somewhere in between, that wherever you're at as you are, your abilities of using yourself as an individual and using your abilities and understanding your abilities and utilizing your abilities, that you're going to approach the whole study maybe a little bit differently than somebody else that may not be taking as much time to work on themselves, so that they can apply themselves better and are better able at using, you know, their mind, better able to use their mind so that they function better. Does that make sense? And so that's the next biggest stumbling block that I see guitarists and musicians run into, is the problem's you, bro. You need to focus on you. You need to look at this concept as that you are the stumbling block, and why. You know, how do I better myself? How do I become better at utilizing the tools that I have to better use wisdom and knowledge, to better gain wisdom and knowledge, to better utilize the wisdom and knowledge, to better, change it and modify it and create more different wisdoms and knowledge, because of how well I am at using my own intellect, my own knowledge, my own logic, my own fundamental concepts of, algorithms and structures and defining things and forming conclusions and deductions and forming, organizing things and all kinds of things like that. It goes on and on and on and on and on. But as you develop that, and you understand you're developing that because you want to become a better guitarist and a better musician, that's going to help you more than anything at this point, because as you start to develop this area and really see that you are what needs to develop, that you're going to take, by the time, if you actually spend time doing that, when you go back and start looking at things we've talked about, that you're going to may start looking at them in a lot different way and being able to understand them better and being able to evaluate them better and being able to form conclusions and deductions and analyses much better, because you've spent so much time focusing on you, so that you are not so much the stumbling block. And you are much happier with you. Does that make sense? And you'd be amazed that if you just spend the time and really take this video seriously and spend the time working on yourself in this area, that you will find you will become so much better of a guitarist, so much better of a musician, and so much better of an individual, and you will be so much happier playing your guitar. Peace, hope, love. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I certainly hope you enjoy taking some introspection, some meditations and contemplations, and bettering you so that you aren't the stumbling block. Peace, hope, love. See you in the next video.